Imagine you're on a flight to your dream destination. The seatbelt sign is off, the cabin crew is serving drinks, and you're settling in for a relaxing journey. Now, imagine the cabin door bursts open, and 3 men, visibly agitated and armed with what looks like a bomb, storm the cockpit. This isn't a scene from a movie. This was the terrifying reality for the 175 passengers and crew aboard Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961. On November 23, 1996, what happened next is a harrowing story of defiance, desperation, and a fight for survival at 30,000 feet. The flight, a Boeing 767, had just taken off from Addis Ababa, headed for Nairobi. Among the passengers were tourists, diplomats, and families. But just 20 minutes into the flight, chaos erupted. 3 young, unemployed Ethiopian men seeking political asylum hijacked the plane. Their demands were simple, yet impossible. They wanted to be flown to Australia. They were convinced they could make the 11-hour journey. Despite the pilots' desperate pleas that the plane barely had enough fuel to reach their original destination in Kenya, the lead hijacker, a man named Alamayahu, was erratic and aggressive. He had stolen a fire axe from the cockpit and a fire extinguisher, which he claimed was a bomb. The other 2 hijackers were armed with makeshift weapons. They refused to believe the experienced captain, Luella Bate, when he explained the fuel limitations. They'd found information in an in-flight magazine that a 767 could fly for over 11 hours, not understanding that this required a full fuel load, which their short-haul flight did not have. Captain Abate was a veteran pilot with over 11,000 flight hours. He knew he was in an impossible situation. The hijackers were watching his every move. He tried to reason with them, showing them the fuel gauges, but they dismissed it as a trick. They were uneducated and paranoid, believing the captain was trying to deceive them and land back in Ethiopia where they'd be arrested. So, Captain Abate made a courageous and risky decision. He would secretly fly down the African coastline, hoping the hijackers wouldn't notice they weren't over the open ocean, buying precious time and staying close to potential landing sites. For hours, this tense standoff continued. The hijackers, growing more agitated and possibly intoxicated from the airline's liquor cabinet, patrolled the aisles. Captain Abate, meanwhile, was playing a deadly game of cat and mouse. He was flying parallel to the coast, but the hijackers were oblivious, staring out at the water, believing it was the Indian Ocean and they were on their way to Australia. But fuel, as Captain Abate had warned, was a finite resource. As the flight passed the Comoro Islands, between Mozambique and Madagascar, the inevitable happened. The right engine flamed out. A chilling silence fell over the plane, soon followed by the realization that the left engine would also fail. The plane was now a glider. Captain Abate made a desperate announcement over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have run out of fuel. We are now losing altitude. We have to ditch, brace for impact." Panic swept through the cabin, but in a moment of extraordinary calm, a flight attendant showed passengers how to inflate their life vests. Tragically, in the chaos, many passengers inflated their vests inside the cabin, a fatal mistake that would later trap them against the ceiling as the plane filled with water. The hijackers were still in the cockpit, wrestling with the controls. Captain Abate was trying to aim for the shallow waters just off a beach resort, the Galawa Beach Hotel. He wanted to ditch the plane as gently as possible, but with the hijackers fighting him, it was nearly impossible. They wanted to aim for the deep ocean. At the last second, just a few hundred feet from the water, the hijackers and Captain Abate were still struggling. The plane banked sharply to the left. The left wingtip hit the water first, acting like a scoop and digging into the ocean. What happened next was violent and catastrophic. The massive aircraft cartwheeled, breaking apart into several pieces before slamming into the reef just 500 meters offshore. Tourists on the beach, who had been watching the low-flying plane with curiosity, now watched in horror as it disintegrated on impact. They immediately sprang into action. Doctors and divers on vacation at the resort grabbed their gear and rushed into the water, pulling survivors from the wreckage. It was a scene of chaos, bravery, and tragedy. Of the 175 souls on board, 125 people, including all 3 hijackers, lost their lives. Many died on impact, while others drowned, trapped inside the sinking fuselage by their prematurely inflated life vests. But miraculously, 50 people survived, thanks to the heroic efforts of Captain Abate and the quick-thinking tourists and locals on the ground. Captain Abate and his co-pilot, Jonas Makuria, both survived the crash. The crash of Flight 961 is one of the most infamous hijackings in aviation history. It serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of air piracy and the critical importance of listening to the flight crew's instructions. The decision to inflate a life vest before exiting the aircraft is a key lesson from this disaster that has since been emphasized in safety briefings worldwide. The incredible skill and bravery of Captain Abate, who fought to save his passengers until the very end, remains a testament to the professionalism of pilots in the face of unimaginable terror. Tedoblewek, and the story it tells, is a chilling monument to a day when a flight to paradise turned into a fight for survival. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing for more stories like this.